The rain that never fell. It was one of those Los Angeles evenings when the sky hung heavy with promise but never delivered. The kind of evening when the clouds thickened, teasing rain, but the pavement stayed dry and waiting. On this night, a man sat silently in the corner of a rehearsal hall in North Hollywood. He wasn't on the schedule, and he wasn't expected. No one recognized him at first, which was exactly what he wanted. The kids were rehearsing August Wilson's Fences, voices crackling with nerves and ambition, their young faces lit by the hope of being seen. Among them, a tall, quiet student with soulful eyes fumbled a line, then corrected himself mid-sentence. He shook his head, frustrated but focused. From the corner, Denzel Washington smiled. He didn't announce himself. He didn't need to. He was there for something else entirely, something older than fame, older than success. He was there to pay forward a debt no one had asked him to repay. The ripple. Long before the Oscars and standing ovations, there was a skinny kid from Mount Vernon, New York. Denzel Washington had grown up watching his parents struggle, love, and hope. His father was a preacher, his mother a beauty parlor owner with fire in her spine. He was surrounded by discipline, but not direction. Then came a moment that would change everything. At 20 years old, adrift and uncertain, Denzel was accepted into the American Conservatory Theater in San Francisco. But he couldn't afford it. Not the flights, not the tuition, not even the meals between classes. Enter, a man named Fordham graduate and actor James "Chip" Fields, who, along with a few others, pooled their money to help Denzel buy a plane ticket. They barely knew him. They simply believed. It was quiet. It was unpublicized. It was the kind of kindness that disappears into the folds of history, unless you carry it with you. And Denzel did. He carried it into every role. Every monologue. Every gritty line spoken on screen and every soul he met off camera. That moment, that anonymous act of belief, had left a permanent mark. And he vowed that one day, when no one was watching, he'd pass it on. The student. His name was Miles Carter. 19. Brooklyn-born. Raised by a single mom who worked nights at the VA hospital. Miles was the kind of young man who held pain like a second language and laughter like a survival tool. He didn't just act, he bled his lines. When he stepped on stage, even in sneakers and a hand-me-down jacket, he turned gravity into something negotiable. But the world doesn't always wait for passion to catch up to stability. The night before the showcase, Miles almost didn't come. Rent was overdue, his sister needed asthma meds, and his part-time job had just cut hours. He was one missed paycheck from vanishing off the grid. Still, he showed up. And in that audience, hidden behind a Dodgers cap and humility, sat Denzel Washington. He saw something, not just talent, but hunger. The kind that echoed back to his own youth. After the performance, Denzel waited until the crowd thinned. No cameras. No speeches. He approached Miles like a whisper. "You got something," he said. Miles blinked. Thank you. Sir. You ever heard of the Fordham Theater program?" Miles shook his head. "You will. You're going." "I can't afford." "I didn't ask that," Denzel said gently, placing a hand on the boy's shoulder. "Neither could I. Once." He handed him a folded slip of paper, an address, a name, a phone number. "Call her. Tomorrow. The rest is handled." Miles opened his mouth, but Denzel was already walking away. No applause. No need. The woman at the door. Her name was Carla Jennings. She was the administrator for the Denzel Washington Scholarship Fund, a program few talked about but many lives owed to. It wasn't flashy. It didn't make headlines. But it worked. Dozens of young black artists, many from broken homes, others from overlooked neighborhoods, had found a second chance thanks to it. tuition, housing, books, mentorship. When Miles showed up, wide-eyed and skeptical, Carla smiled. "You must be one of Denzel's picks," she said. He furrowed his brow. "One of?" "Oh honey," she laughed. "You're not the first. You won't be the last." He stepped into the room, and the door behind him quietly closed, but the one in front of him had just opened wider than he could ever imagine. Backstage echoes. Years passed. Miles Carter's name began to circulate, first in whispers among casting agents, then in bold ink on playbills, finally on screens across the country. A breakout role in an indie film. A lead in a Netflix series. Critics talked about his emotional precision and magnetic vulnerability. But Miles knew better. He hadn't made it alone. One night, after a Q&A at Sundance, a young girl approached him, clutching a notebook. "I want to be like you," she said. Miles knelt, looking her in the eye. He remembered another evening, another hallway, another man. He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a folded slip of paper. His handwriting, this time. "Call her," he said. "The rest is handled." The ghosts in the theater. Years later, in the silence before curtain at the Public Theater in New York, Miles Carter stood center stage, staring out at the empty seats. The room was dark except for the ghost light, a single bulb on a stand, burning softly, casting long shadows like memories. He wasn't afraid. He wasn't even nervous. But he felt them, the people who had carried him, who had spoken belief into his silence, who had chosen him when he didn't know how to choose himself. And among those ghosts, he felt Denzel. They didn't speak often. Maybe a message once a year. A silent nod at an awards show. But Miles knew, some debts you never repay in full. You just pass them on. Denzel's garden. Far from the spotlight, Denzel sat on a modest wooden bench in his backyard, trimming basil and humming a hymn his mother used to sing. He was older now, the weight of decades lining his face, but his eyes still held the steel that had once burned through Glory, Malcolm X, Training Day. His wife, Pauletta, brought out 2 cups of coffee and sat beside him. "You see what Miles did today?" she asked, scrolling through her phone. "Paid for 3 kids' tuition. Set up a program in Brooklyn. Named it after his sister." Denzel sipped slowly. "Good kid," he murmured. "You had a hand in that." He shook his head. "I was just a link." Pauletta smiled. "Sometimes the quiet ones change everything." He looked out at the sunlight dancing on the leaves. "No cameras," he said. "No red carpets. Just make sure it grows." The ripple widens. The stories began surfacing, not because Denzel told them, but because the people he touched couldn't stay quiet. There was the young actor from Atlanta who got a letter of recommendation that opened doors he didn't know existed. The struggling playwright from Detroit who received an anonymous donation to fund her first production. The high school theater program in New Jersey that suddenly found itself with new lights, new scripts, new hope, all signed under an untraceable foundation name. All whispered the same thing: Denzel paid it forward. And always, always, with quiet hands. The interview. One day, during a late-night talk show appearance, the host leaned in, smiling. "You've done it all. Awards, legacy, icon status. But people are talking now, about what you've done behind the scenes. All the young artists you've helped." The audience applauded. Denzel raised an eyebrow. "People say you've been giving a lot, silently, for years." He nodded once. "Yeah. Why? Why so quietly?" He leaned forward, fingers laced, voice calm. "Because it's not about me," he said. "It's about keeping the fire lit. Someone lit it for me when I didn't know how to hold the match. I just keep it burning for the next hand." The crowd fell into respectful silence. And besides, he added, a smile cracking, you don't need a spotlight to do what's right. The final bow. Miles Carter eventually stood on that Oscar stage, older now, sharper, more grounded. His mother was in the front row. Denzel wasn't. But he felt him there. Clutching the gold statue, Miles looked out over the glittering sea of power and possibility, and for a moment, said nothing. Then he cleared his throat. When I was 19, he began, someone believed in me when I couldn't afford to believe in myself. He gave me a chance, not a headline. A path, not a promise. He held the statue high. This is not just mine. This is his. And this is for everyone who believes silently, who gives without needing to be thanked. You changed my life. I'll spend the rest of mine changing others. The legacy. Denzel never told the full story. He never needed to. He believed in the quiet kind of immortality, the kind that lives not in trophies or tabloids, but in moments that ripple forward through other lives. A whispered word. A check no one knew about. A door opened when someone thought they were locked out for good. And that was the point. Sometimes the loudest legacy is the one whispered into a single life that grows into a forest of change. In the end, Denzel Washington didn't just teach others how to act, he taught them how to be. To carry forward what matters. To speak through action. To give, without waiting to be seen. And the rain finally fell. Soft, cleansing, real, as if the sky had waited all these years to honor the quiet man who never asked for anything but the chance to lift someone else a little higher. Because when Denzel paid it forward, the world quietly tilted toward better.